Today we're taking you inside 4 remarkable homes defined by old world elegance, personal history, and timeless design. In New Orleans, designer and antique expert Tara Shaw fills her home with exceptional European pieces, contemporary art, and custom elements that reflect decades of sourcing and design. In Houston, designer Suzanne Duin restores a landmark mansion, furnishing it with antiques gathered across Europe while carefully integrating modern functionality. And then in the Catskill Mountains, artist Hunt Slonem brings new life to Belle Terre, a historic estate layering his signature artwork and pattern throughout the expansive property. And then we head to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where Trettel and Ryan Hanson restore the Alfred Pillsbury Mansion, returning the Tudor Revival home to its original purpose while preserving its architectural legacy. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Tara. Welcome to my home in New Orleans.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name's Tara Shaw. I'm from New Orleans. I want to welcome you to my home. I'm a designer, importer, and author. I first saw this home when I moved to New Orleans in the late 90s, and it was under construction then. It took about 3.5 years for the owner to build it. It's a Haussmannian style home. The fellow that had it built was a Francophile. He had seen the home when he was in France. He hired an architect, Barry Fox, to design the home. It was steel frame construction, all hand-laid stucco. So it was the most amazing process. I would walk by this home and watch the transformation over 3.5 years. And they put that beautiful slate roof on top with the mansard roof. And it was just love at first sight for me. And I kept thinking, I would love to build a house like this. Well, it went on the market in 2004. And my realtor invited me. It was more than I wanted to really spend on a home. And she said, why don't you just come look at it? And when I came, it was just like a beehive of realtors all working their phones. And I thought, well, I'll never get this home because it's really out of my budget. But the house did not sell. And I drove back around. I saw it was still for sale. I called my realtor and they said, would you please submit an offer, which I did. So I bought the house in 2004 as a single woman. I was so excited. The house hadn't completely been finished, so I started working on bathrooms, just, how do you eat the elephant? Well, it was really one bite at a time. But because I'm an importer, I had so much furniture. So I easily filled this home, and it has been my test kitchen this whole time. Like, I'll test out things I would never test in a client's home here. So it's been a wonderful ride. And I got to create a sanctuary here that I just love pulling into. Okay, welcome to the living room. My husband and I and our whippets spend the majority of our time in this room when we're downstairs. Now, this portion of the living room is anchored with this beautiful custom molding in this alcove that has 3 French doors. What I love about them is you can just open these and walk out to the pool or keep them open and you can hear the fountains in the background that are so soothing. The anchor in this room is this fabulous table. I bought this in Le Mans, France at a déballage. It looked nothing like this, but it is filled with wormholes, which actually help me date a piece of furniture. So I know this is from the 18th to 19th century. It's got a bronze jardiniere on top that will keep filled with fresh flowers. The sconces are empire. I just love anything with a face or a hoof or a paw. Now the art, to balance this out, you're gonna need big contemporary art for me to really work in a space. And I have a pair of these David Corinos. You know, it's a fascinating history on his art. They all tell stories. Actually, he would get letters from Helen Keller and all these famous authors, and he would then do a contemporary imprint of this for a large scale painting. So I anchored the room with two of these. You know, I bought this piano. It was one of the first things I ever purchased. And I am still on page 16 of Alfred Dunner's book 1. Can you believe that? But still, I love looking at it. It's a piece of art for me. In the corner, we have a mid-century Swedish chaise from Arnie Norell, one of my favorite designers, and a clock from England that is sexy and heavily carved. The banquette in the second half of our living room is 18th century Swedish. This is the original patina. You know, I refer to Swedish furniture as the classic white shirt. Timeless, elegant, mixes well with other periods and styles, covered in a mohair, 4 Toonie pillows. As you come this way, for century, I did a Belgian sofa. This is the essential key to comfort in this room because it just surrounds you with that down and foam cushion, and it's a perfect 2-person dog sofa. And just add whippets is my key to comfort. In the coffee table, this is Gaia Lenti, and she was one of my favorite architects, and then she got into furniture. So I'm proud to have one of her tables. She was a mid-century hero of mine. This is David Bourgeling. He is a New Orleans artist, and I like to use, locals' work if I can, whenever I can in design projects. I like to see these glass eyes that are on this 18th century Spanish mirror. But, you know, one of the things I like about antiques is they're not pristine. I didn't try and make it pristine. I want to live with the imperfections because basically that's what my life is filled with. And this is Sister's toy box. If you lift this, you are going to see years of toys in here. You know, one of the things that I will always have in my purse is probably a dog toy or a dog treat. And these are Italian processional batons. Now, this would be 17th century. They've got mirrors in that gilded finish, hand-carved gilded finish. Now, they would carry these before the king or before a pope. So I just like the history there, just leaning on the wall. Now, the chaise is French and comfortable. You know, when they were working on mid-century furniture, it was really all about the ergonomic form. So, love that. And this houses our television. So this is an 18th century Italian armoire. that has been fitted for our TV. So, and for our Sonos, I should have French music playing in the background though. So I like it. I'll hide televisions and all sorts of stuff in an armoire. So super practical for me. So to keep neutrals interesting, I think that's where you layer in patterns. So whether it's the Fortuny print, and my texture and interest in the room is with different fabrics that you can actually read with your eyes. And of course, interesting art. So there's that balance. You have mohairs and plush faux furs, textural prints that would encompass African tribal feel. And I think that bouclés, which will never go out of style, and leathers add to that element of just luxury without having color. What I love about the home is it is very elegant and stately, but it is extremely casual once you enter into the front doors. And it is relaxed elegance. I lost the roof of the house during Hurricane Ida 2 years ago. And so basically, I thought I was finished with the home at that time. But what I did was I turned that lemon into lemonade, and I just redid so many of the rooms, just re-envisioned them. And my favorite room in the house is really the kitchen. There is 17th century Sicilian limestone floor that does not have two single floor tiles that are the same size. So basically it was like putting together a big jigsaw puzzle. I put in old beams from a barn that was in Texas into the ceiling, and it's got the rounded bottom. So, you know, the interesting thing about those long beams that are 26 feet long is the rounded part was really on the ground of the barn. So it's got this rough hewn feel mixed with contemporary cabinetry. Welcome to my favorite room in the house. This is the kitchen. So really, this was my jumping off point after Hurricane Ida. So I started with this 17th century Sicilian limestone floor. And there are no two pieces that are the same size. So this was a rather large puzzle for me. And then anchored it with this Italian range. And I feel that the knobs on it are like jewelry. And then I bought these slabs of marble that we could book match and just hide the hood, create this beautiful visual that looks like it starts from the bottom of the marble and continues up. Now the cabinets are not really black. They are a striated finish, meaning this was hand done by a person, and you can see all the gray undertones. And, you know, no two cabinets are really consistent. It was an organic process that really went back with the floor. But I wanted the gray in these to connect to the marble. In the kitchen, I have antique cutting boards from Italy. And then as you come this way, this is a soapstone. So this stone originally is like a medium gray. So we created, you had to get slabs really long enough to make this. So it's imperative if you're trying to do a kitchen, you don't want to piece together your slabs. But so we lined the sinks with the same stone and didn't really do a waterfall, had a break in the leg. And so this is where I hide like my Fisher Paykel dishwashers. I love washing, whether it's dishwashing, clothes washing, everything has multiples. When you come this way, you're going to see, I took out the cabinetry here and created with a company here in New Orleans, just this brass shelving. And so we did the same thing here, is we did marble on the bottom of the shelves as well as the top of the shelves, carried it all the way up to the wooden molding. And this is a collection that I started from Belgium. This is stoneware. So there are cake plates and tureens and pitchers. And then this is actually just organic plates that we use just every day that have an organic feel to them. This is by Be Home. So we continued the marble on this side of the kitchen and also lined the sink in the marble. So light is filtering in from a Conrad shade. I have a Swedish plinth pedestal there in marble. So the room feels extremely warm, especially when you are looking at the ceiling, because I added these beams that came from an old Texas barn, and they had this rough-hewn organic feel. So it feels collected and layered, even though it is a neutral. And I think the movement in the stones and the difference in the floor adds so much warmth. The fireplaces in the home are made out of limestone, very minimal burn logs, and the mirror over the fireplace is part of my Century collection. We do that not only in the gold tone, we also do it in the silver. But you're going to see a cupboard where I house more stoneware, because as you can tell, not only am I an importer, I'm a collector. So this cabinet is from Belgium. This tureen is 18th century from Italy. This is old stoneware from the 16th century in this soft stone with angels on it. And we actually use these and use plates when we are entertaining. So nothing is really off limits. This is an 18th century Swedish table, and what I like about it is it has the original patina. We did nothing to it. So this would be the original blue-gray, and I like the way that this was so used that it's worn off, and you're going to see the iron vise that actually hold the table together. What I did to make the table feel current is we added these Plattner chairs, mid-century Plattners. You know, they're great for comfort. They're iconic. And the clock is 18th century Swedish. The painting is one of the first things I bought many, many years ago in the 90s. The antique dealer actually gave me a payment plan. So I wanted it and paid him like in 3 terms for this beautiful painting by Trulabert. So you can see the basket in the background, the fish, and then the provincial pottery. The chandeliers that are hanging in the kitchen above the island are mid-century Swedish. And what was so interesting about this artist is all the glass blowers at the time rejected him because he had bubbles in his glass. But you know, he went on to become a Swedish icon. So I was excited to have, they're not really a pair, but they are a pair. So that's what I love about antiquity. Okay, we are in the formal dining room, and yes, we do use the formal dining room, but I just love scale, not only in contemporary art, but also when I can find it in antique art. This painting is from the 16th century. The Italian artist captured Esther, who is in the Old Testament, appearing before the king, and these are all her courtiers. And it's actually one of my favorite stories in the Bible. So I was extremely excited when I got to purchase this painting. So underneath it, we have a Swedish 18th century bench covered in a tobacco mohair. And then the bolsters are just a rough Swedish organic cloth that they would use as sackcloth. The buffet is where I house a ton of stuff. It is 1839, and you can see that they repainted it. And what I love is that the Nielsen's got it in 1965. So typically they would inherit this from their parents, and then they would repaint sometimes the interior and the exterior. I was fortunate that the Nielsen's did not repaint the exterior. So this is where I hide all sorts of things. So Christmas, I'm telling you, there's no telling what you'll find in here. It's like a treasure trove. Sometimes I don't know what's in there. So it's always good to just forage through there for vases. So this buffet decor anchors the space. You know, in a room, when I'm designing the room, I always work with height. I have staggered height, whether I need tall pieces to balance out the lower pieces. This is a Swedish bergère, but we use this table. My husband is number 8 of 10 children, and we use this big round table with all these chairs for not only dining, because when we hosted Christmas, we had 30 people, but you know, someone will claim this table. Afterwards, we'll play a game called Left, Right, Center, which is a card game. It's absolutely hilarious. And a table this size, which is 72 inches of a mid-century table, is the perfect thing for rolling dice. But here we have one of my favorite chairs, Savonarola, another mid-century layered into the piece. This is David Lappin. He is was from Alabama. I don't quite know where he is now. We have it on an iron plinth. And then the anchor in this corner of the room is this beautiful limestone plaster mirror. We have it in the Century Furniture line. I just took these 2 lamps from my showroom, so basically I could be my best customer. And this is a mid-century, like one-off piece that I found in the fields in Avignon, France, my last trip. It is all on top of Italian console that is from the 1700s that has beautiful water gilding. But so, you know, I like the imperfection of it. So it's missing some leaves, but it's just what I want to come home to. You know, as you collect, and because I work in Europe, I am constantly shipping in big 40-foot containers. So I will add pieces, you know, European mid-century, or swap out an antique and put it in my showroom, which is 2 blocks away, to sell. So the I would say the style of the home is European contemporary with heroes in every room. In other words, every room is anchored with an antique. We work around it with mid-century and add some casual contemporary seating, and that's the vibe of my tribe. So welcome to my office. This is like the hub of creativity. I re-envisioned this after I lost the roof. It was a red Pecky cypress, and this took many, many coats of bleach to take the red out of the floor and also my bookshelves. But I love the way it turned out. We use this Bona product that's gives it an organic finish, so it's a matte finish. I started collecting books when I was working in the fields in Europe in 1994. This was my first set I brought in, and I have been on a roll ever since then. What's the super anchor in this room are the prehistoric fragments. Now, my mother started that collection for me with these prehistoric scapula. I got those when I was a teenager, and they were like in a shoebox size, and I thought, oh my gosh, my mom got me shoes for my birthday, but it wasn't shoes. I opened the lid, it was prehistoric scapula, and I just looked at her, and I guess she could probably judge the disappointment because I wanted shoes. And she said, one day that's going to be art for you. So I appreciate that. To this day, I remember that, because when I started seeing these collections in Europe, I started purchasing them. And then I buy these old vellum tombs. Most of these come from Italy, but some of these tombs are from 13th century, 14th century. At that time, they would use hides and skins to cover their books. I mean, that's before we went into these leathers. So I'm a collector of boxes as well, because I like to put things in boxes. I'm always looking for places to hide my stuff when people come over and video. But so I encourage clients to start a collection. I think that's one of the most fun things, because I'll be traveling throughout Europe, and I'll bring back several things for myself to add to my collections. And so you have this great memory of travels. Now, this is a Swedish, it's called a tub sofa. And because it's the shape of a bathtub. The coffee table here is French brutalist. So you see that tension between that mid-century brutalist back with the soft form of the Swedish. And then, it's a working office. I've gotten, printers and all nonsense in here that we have to have just for really function. And these are superb man chairs. These are mid-century Italian, covered in a texture as well. Men get in it, don't want to leave. They kind of like the office too. I think this is one of the rooms that I probably get the most comments about, is my office. They like the collection. They like the fact that I had painted the bottom of this cabinetry. I did what most people won't do. I love to take risks. So we bleached the top, and I painted the bottom in satin. And as we come this way in my office, you're going to see my desk. It's French from the 1800s, really a working desk. And the secretary is from Lucca, Italy. So the sheep, mid-century, right here, if you can see him. I have a thing for sheep. So we are just part of this eclectic, but there's a lot of continuity here with the rest of the home, because I redid all the floors in that organic Bona finish. And so it tied it all together, because there's that thread of black. So I hope you like the office. I hope it inspires you in some way. Now we are leaving my office, transitioning into the entry of the home. It has limestone floors. The center diamond is in a Paradiso marble. Now, this chandelier that anchors the stairwell is 18th century Italian, has a loss of paint and gilding, and you see that rough iron. We did a French wire in there to electrify it. So I'm constantly bringing in chandeliers that are one-offs. I had one of my biggest chandelier finds this last trip. So I'm looking for things like this that are like one-of-a-kinds. These contemporary totems are from Evelyn Jordan. They're a New Orleans artist. What I like is the balance of the contemporary with the Italian Medici console, original conforming marble. It has the family crest on it. This is a Roman soldier from the 1400s. A French oval mirror. You know, they didn't do many oval mirrors back then. The powder room downstairs houses a painting from Italy, 1503. I found it in Alba, Italy. I created this marble pedestal base for this stone sink that my husband and we bought a bunch of these basins when we were in Avignon. I did a little pressure washing. Contemporary sconces flanked by a bronze mirror, and the jewelry in the room is the mid-century Swedish chandelier. So I went to college to be a teacher, and I had a minor in psychology. I stood in front of a second grade student teaching class. I knew at that moment I was probably not called to teach children. I had a meeting with myself and I thought, what do I spend all my money on? It was fashion. So I pivoted and I followed my heart. I flew to New York. I went to the garment district. I started representing several lines. I opened a showroom in Dallas, Texas. Then I opened a second showroom. I had reps traveling for me. Really, the point in that career in the fashion industry was about the 5 to 7 year mark, where I started reading World of Interiors. Lisa Newsom had just started Veranda. So one of the lines that I represented was purchased by Liz Claiborne, which gave me the money to buy one nice piece of furniture a year. So I was trying to figure out who I was in furniture. I believe I always had that passion because, you know, as a child, I had a black faux fur bedspread with a mid-century leopard print banquette when I was 7 years old. I don't know where that came from, but obviously it was in my DNA. So I thought, well, I can buy one nice piece of furniture a year, you know, in this apparel industry, or I can start going to Europe and using my apparel model, which is selling wholesale. And I thought, well, why not do that? And then keep one piece, a container for myself. I thought that's the way I can really furnish my home. I saw Farrah Fawcett's home and she had like this 17th century Italian secretary with a side Twombly over it. And at that point, I was absolutely smitten. So I headed off to Europe and I shipped into my first container, and we shipped it into a mini storage on Tchoupitoulas, which is the street that runs along the river here in New Orleans. And it was all word of mouth at that time. And I rolled up the 10 by 30 roll-up doors, and everything sold in about 10 minutes. And I thought, you know what, I really might be onto something here with furniture importing. So I never looked back at that moment. I started importing, and then that door literally opened the door for me to design. Follow me upstairs and I'm going to show you the primary bedroom. welcome to our bedroom. So really this is a bedroom for three. My husband Robert Walsh and our whippet sister Luca. She sleeps right in the middle of us, in between those two pillows. So this is one of the beds that I make in my furniture line, Terre Maison. It is just a two-tone contemporary bed, but it is the balance, the juxtaposition to the 18th century Swedish bench that's at the foot of the bed. This is covered in a beautiful cravat couture mohair. We have a 19th century French chest. Love this hardware. And this is the original bronze. The lamps are Swedish mid-century. This painting I bought when I was in Parma, Italy, the last time I was there. And it's just serenity for me. Love climbing those stairs at the end of a long day. And if you look this way, this is another local artist, Rain Bledsoe. And this has, I had her add this crystal. This is chandelier crystal from chandeliers that we had excess crystal over all the years. So there's some connectivity to the business there with this boat that is suspended really from fishing wire. As we come to this portion of the room, you know, we do watch television to go to sleep at night, and it's hidden behind this fabulous Empire armoire. This is one of the first pieces I bought when I was in Europe. We have mid-century brutalist lamps in here. The balance are these beautiful Swedish mid-century chairs. This is Spanish, a Spanish marble coffee table. And then the daybed is Swedish from the 1700s. I'm always collecting small objects when I'm in the field. I bought this iron crown in Parma, Italy. And this is just a rare French apothecary that they would literally put medicines in way back when. My husband and I got married in 2017. Remember, I bought this house in 2004. And I think the reason we've had a successful marriage is because I have my bathroom and dressing room, and he has his bathroom and dressing room. He had been a bachelor of 46 years, so I'm sure you can just envision what that looks like. But this is the space where I come in, I close the door. Now the paneling I added, these three panels came from a shipment. I bought them in the south of France. I didn't have enough paneling, so we added pine in here because this was the original material of this panel, and then did French molding. So when I bought this house, this was a giant jacuzzi in here. So I took that out. We created an alcove here, and with this incredible 18th century paneling, and it totally transformed the room. There's a soaking tub, a hatbox toilet, so it won't hide the beautiful panels. Now, if you look this way, this is an 18th century console that was created to be my vanity. We drilled through the marble, added a marble mortar bolt, drilled through that, contemporary plumbing, 18th century mirror, contemporary sconces, and so this is my get away from it all Calgon moment. Now what I did here was I added plaster on the shower. So all of our showers are super minimal. So this is all hand plastered, And it has a continuity of the herringbone floor in marble. This is a Thassos, hone Thassos, that runs straight into the shower. But one of the things I like to do is have connectivity in rooms. So in a lot of the bathrooms, you're going to see herringbone stone. You know, I have certainly run out of inspiration and gas, and I'm like this, I have nothing to give right at this moment. What am I going to do? I get a lot of my ideas in my sleep. I was working on a project for Emerald and Alden Lagasse. I'd worked on 3 homes with them, and literally the answer to this bathroom dilemma that we had was I got it in my sleep. So I think just going away and downtime. A lot of my inspiration, though, comes from Europe because I will be there 3 to 5 weeks at a time. I'll be traveling through 3 countries, and I'm basically taking things that were so inspiring to me and then filtering them through my American design aesthetic. This is one of our guest bedrooms, and I am a big fan of a canopy bed. I call it Instant Safe Haven. This Venetian canopy bed I created for Century Furniture, so it just launched in their line this fall. And it has a beautiful Venetian movement on the headboards. And this is in heavy Belgian linen. The table is Italian, minimal, directoire. Now, I like grisaille, so I'm always searching for it. Now, this is a very unusual one because it's instead of the brown, which they call brunei, this is a dark grisaille. It has all hand-painted frame around it in a geometric pattern. Now, this cute little secretary on stand is Italian, lots of hidden drawers, and just a one-of-a-kind find. You know, the thing that makes you smile every time you look at it. In the corner of the guest bedroom is Eames Chase. So it is the perfect balance to that Italian 18th century secretary. This is a Swedish mirror with the original glass, and that is King Gustav carved in the center of the mirror. And basically, King Gustav revolutionized the furniture industry in Sweden because Sweden was importing furniture during his reign. He put a stop to that, and he created all of the small craftsmen to start making Sweden's own furniture. So we have him to thank for that. The armoire, which is French and 18th century, houses a television, of course. And this is another favorite for me, Arne Norell in a Swedish mid-century chair. So wanted to give a guest something super comfortable to relax in during their stay. Something unexpected too is always the best thing for a guest bedroom. So take a tour with me in the back garden. One of the things about this property is that it was a triple lot. So I knew I could build a lap pool. This is a saltwater lap pool. Added the fountains because I wanted to be in the middle of the city. I'm in a walking distance to restaurants and Whole Foods and the park, but yet you would never know it because once you come into this back garden, it's like you are in total privacy. The table is a Belgian bluestone, base is mid-century. The pots are from the south of France. They're from a town called Biot. And we have fruit trees, we have kumquat trees, And then in this area, I have orange trees and satsuma trees. But what I did was I anchored the garden with my favorite things, like on the coping of the pool, I added a pair of Sphinx. Now, you know, Napoleon was crazy about Egypt. And so that particular form came from the Napoleonic reign. We had this woman that I found in Bordeaux. She is amazing. She's in a sandstone from the 1700s. And if you just look this way, we are planted with about 17 or 18 Savannah hollies. I just put those in after the last hurricane, but I'd love to show you a seating area. So this is the reading and relaxing area under the umbrella. So the table is from the Renaissance, stone from the Renaissance. And then these are also little capitals from the Renaissance. So I believe antiques are made to be lived with, loved, and don't you think they really complement the contemporary, comfortable furnishings? I think they add this layer of warmth and sophistication. Just exactly what I need on a Saturday. I think the key to soul is for it to be a reflection of you or a client. I think their collected travels, the things that are important to them, it's the soul of the home. So your home is not like anyone else's home. It reflects you. Home, for me, is the place where I unwind, I feel comfortable, I let all the cares of the day or my work life, I leave them behind. I close the door, I press the clicker on the garage, and you know, it's just this comforting feel where you don't have all these distractions. What I love about working in neutrals is it gives me this calm feel, and that's what I'm looking for in a home. Homeworthy, that was so much fun. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the tour with me. But I have a flight to catch, and I will see you next time.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Suzanne, and you're here in Houston, Texas at my home, Legend. Come on in, I want to show you around.
This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Duin Stewart, and I'm an interior designer here in Houston, Texas, and you're in my home called Legend. So Legend, this home, was built by the Howe family. It is the last commission of Birdsall Briscoe. Birdsall Briscoe is one of the foremost architects here in Houston and in Southeast. I'm very fortunate I got to live in another Briscoe, my first house, just down the street. Beautiful, beautiful details. He's just a genius in classical architecture. And so of course I was drawn to the house because it was a Briscoe. But secondarily, the history of the house, I actually knew the owners. It's the second generation of the original owners, a woman's named Dorothy Knox Houghton. and she's a charming character of a woman. And there's a little bit of both Dorothys in every room here in the house. So the house came on the market, I guess in 2019. And as soon as I saw it come on the market, I called immediately to see the house. I'd only seen the formal spaces before. Dorothy and her mother were always very generous about opening their home to whatever society, whatever fundraiser. And so many people have been into this house. But I'd never seen the private spaces. So I think I told a little fib to the agent and said that I was looking for one of my clients. Anyway, I got in, got access, and saw the house completely that first time and walked away, and I thought, well, that's a big project. I didn't realize at the time that it was going to be my husband and I that bought the house. But in 2021, we bought this project, and it's been a daunting challenge, but it's so rewarding at the end. Many times frustrations, but soup to nuts. It's a jewel that needed to be revived.
Hi, welcome to my living room. This is a classic Birdsall Briscoe room. The detailed work on the moldings, the crown molding, the wood paneling is so typical of his exceptional effort towards detail. We have hidden speakers in the ceiling, and after which I wanted to do a high gloss finish. A little bit of a nod to today's 21st century, but still keeping in character with the historical house. Triple hung windows are amazing, and I haven't curtained them because we're so far away from the street. I don't need the privacy, and I just love having the natural light. So stay tuned. I might add drapery in a little while. The rug itself started the room. This is an ushak I found in auction. It's very unusual, and the colors are very vibrant. I just love it. And yes, maybe it's a bit small for the room, but I also love the wood floors with the beautiful chevron. So I wanted to be able to show that as well. This is one of the pieces from my collection inventory. This is an Italian piece, an Italian sofa. Actually comes in pieces. I've just done it in a lightweight yellow linen, but I love, as you'll see when you walk through the house, you'll see the element of the goldenrod color wafting through the whole first floor. Everything has to be comfortable for me and useful. So we've got outdoor fabrics on most things, but this happens to be a tufted leather, and it helps to separate the room, but yet join it. So we have a seating area over on the left and a seating area on the right, and it allows us to have a lot of people in one room comfortably. So I like books. I like design books, and this sort of like is a menagerie of some of my favorite books. And may look a little cluttered, but I think it's organized. So I like to have them at my hand, and everyone feels more comfortable around books. They're always a disclaimer. The fireplace itself, what I love, I would turn it on right now, but it needs a new battery. This is a point and shoot. So we use our fireplaces. We have a total of 4 in the house, and they get used constantly. In fact, even though it's almost July, we still use daily. Every morning I use the fireplace up in my sitting room. The collection of books came from the Dorothys. I have something in every room that I bought from the estate, and so there's a little piece of Dorothy in every room. But by and large, the artwork is all ours. We've got beautiful landscapes. We've got a wonderful painting that a friend of mine's father painted of the Sacré-Cœur. Nice big piece. And the china in these lovely little cupboards. Sadly, I lost my mother, but I have mementos of her in every room as well. So this was a collection of china that belonged to my mother, Tamari. Example of our lampshades, famous, we sell, Maison. And you'll see those in every room. We have something from our collection. The banquet was done specifically so that I had the opportunity to entertain using the whole room. Let me show you our library now. Welcome to the library. Poppy and I want to show you our favorite room. Come on, Pops. So this room, by and large, is in its original shell. What did change the most about this room, the old way had a very odd, almost mid-century profile. And so we pulled that off and brought back to a more traditional setting. By the way, this stone came from the same quarry that did the Rockefeller Center. We love old books. We love the feel of the patina of the old leather-bound books. My husband has a whole collection of Daniel Silva and every paperback you can think of. And so what we did for that is we hid it behind these doors because paperbacks are never pretty. So he has his own little stash. God knows what all's in here, but can you see? So that was our way of hiding, but having usable storage. The drapery in here is actually the Stewart hunting tartan, which of course that's our surname, Stewart. And so that's quite fun. And this, my husband actually uses as his office. He's semi-retired. And this is a moment where you can see it with a clean desk. Usually it's a storm in here, and it was prior to you all arriving. The Suzanne is one of my favorites, and it kind of was the starting point for the color palette here. This rug, this is a beautiful to breathe. I found this in auction. It came out of a New York City apartment, and it's room size, and it's warm, and it's cozy, and it sort of set the tone for the color palette. One of my favorite things about this room are the book-lined doors. These doors were actually right here, exactly as they are, but they were flipped. So these were flat paneled because they were the interior of the closet. And then on the other side, they're paneled, beautiful. So what we did to fix this, I went and bought books out of auction houses, and we cut them in half and made these book doors. The biggest change in here, there used to be a bar here and the hallway was here. And I never understood why Briscoe, this is one of my questions I would have loved to have asked him, why he didn't center the fireplace on the door. Well, we fixed that when we added an elevator behind here, and we moved the bar to the front. And then come on in, I'll show you the elevator. This little alcove houses now our elevator. And it also is the back of where the powder room is. So this is where most of the renovation happened. So all we did was we shifted this door casing over, centered it on the fireplace, and then built in the elevator shaft, and then shortened the size of the previous powder room. I like to call this the ladies' powder room, which I'll show you now. Welcome to the ladies' powder room. So what all can I tell you about this lovely space? First of all, the wall covering is actually a friend of mine, Susan from Repotique. She sold this collection to Tebow, and Tebow is the one that represents this line, but these are historical representations of previous art plates. Beautiful, I love it so much. And then because the room had to shorten tremendously, there really wasn't sort of a ladies' dressing area. So I needed to incorporate as much as I could in a very small space. I found this lovely storage piece in auction, and it fit exactly about the space I needed it to house the important things that need to be hidden underneath and yet still be an architecturally a significant piece. The mirror that you will see here belonged to the James Garner estate. He's one of my favorite actors, and just kind of what's special to me. Not only I like the scale of it so that you get a chance to check yourself out, but it also helps to double the size of the room. So because I had the very small space constraints, I had to look to get just the right sconces that would fit this space. Absolutely lovely. It's baguettes. They're just charming. And one of my favorite things, I use them often in projects. I mean, when I can find them, they're all antiques. But then I had something that I found in another little auction, tiny little petit chandelier. that's reminiscent of Vegas, but not exactly. The drapery, I used an old antique silk sari that I just liked a little bit of an introduction of the textile, completely opposite of the character of the wallpaper. The stone that I used for the countertop is just a beautiful, beautiful green marble. Just has a lot of movement to it, and I felt that it needed it to balance out the significance of the pattern on the wallpaper. Other than that, the art is from some of my Venetian prints. They're reminiscent of some travels that we've had in the past. Everything, again, the Grand Tour. So those are Italian, French, English, Hollywood.
Legend is on an acre of land in prime spot in River Oaks. It's a beautiful neighborhood, the most beautiful, I think, in Houston. This house was built in 1959, 60. It's my age. I guess that maybe makes it a little bit more special too. The style, the architecture, classic Greek Revival. There's been some nuances taken. I could tell that maybe the Dorothys had a little bit of influence on their cousin Birdsall. So this house had some elements that were became a little too modern for his classical architecture. So we took it back to what Birdsall would have wanted in the beginning. And that's evident like in the before and afters of the library. It had a little bit of almost a mid-century kind of treatment to the library wall, and so we took it back to the classics that would have been, I think, appropriate for the time. Really, it was most important to keep pure to the architecture for us, and to preservation of the details of the architecture, and down to, I did not change it if it could be salvaged. From the top of the roof all the way down to rebuilding the plumbing underneath the house, every aspect of this house had to be renovated. The restoration process was daunting. In addition to trying to add things that we'd like to have, like a wine cellar or a media room on the third floor, but the house had not been maintained. And if the heirs, the daughters, had not gotten a historical designation to protect this property, somebody would have torn it down because the property is just too beautiful itself, the land, the location. It's on a corner, it's in a park-like setting, so there's no way, I don't think that this house would have been salvaged. And once you started to look at the cost of everything from the top of the roof to rebuilding the plumbing, you could have built another house. This was a labor of love.
Welcome to my dining room. We do a lot of entertaining here at Legend. I love to entertain, I love to cook, I love to have friends over or family. So this room was important to me that it make a statement. Starting with the beautiful wall covering. This is Ixel. I went hog wild and picked a very dramatic print, and I love the teal background color. It just makes me feel warm and cozy. In the room, especially when we have the fireplace going, everybody loves coming to our dinners. The selection over here of china is a mixture of mine and then the previous Dorothy's. So again, I think I told you that I bought something in every room from the estate. And this collection of Meissen belonged to the Dorothy's. Very bold and very floral. Not typically what I would use, but they're great for decorative purposes. Some more of my lampshades. This is from our Maison. This is a wonderful, beautiful post-impressionist painting that I bought in France, back in the 80s. Most of the things I have in my house I've collected over the years. My mother was an interior designer as well, so I was always surrounded by beautiful things. And she taught me how to buy in auctions, taught me how to be smart and clever about my purchases. China that you see on the table, it's a collection of inherited pieces of mine. You'll see it when we get into the breakfast room. My collection is pretty vast. So for me, I always start with comfort. I always like to use this room. I have leather seats so that I don't worry about spills. I use these seagrass placemats come from my collection. I love the juxtaposition of the rough, natural texture compared to these very, very formal plates that I use. By the way, I use everything. It all goes in the dishwasher. I would say that pretty much any dishwasher will work, but if you will use the dishwasher, use it on the gentle cycle if you like, but the biggest deal that you need to remember is that they have to completely dry and harden. For instance, when these gold gilded pieces go through the dishwasher, the gilding gets very soft. And if you don't allow it to completely harden back and get cold, that's when you can get nicks into the gold. So I use everything I have. The sterling, the china, the crystal, all goes in the dishwasher. I make it easy for me, and I haven't had any problems since. My attitude is, if you have it, use it. Don't have it just sitting collecting dust in a closet. The chandelier is Baccarat, and it was original to the house. In addition to that, I bought these beautiful candelabras also from Dorothy's estate. So I just feel like the Dorothys are with me all the time. And I think she's very proud of me for the entertaining we do. Another piece that just brings me great joy is this lovely little, sweet little country piece. My mother used to come with me on some of my buying trips in France, and one particular one, when we were there, we bought this down in South France. So to have it at my home now just keeps her with me.
So I have been practicing design since I got out of design school in UT, and I predominantly work in Houston area, Texas. I've done projects across the country, some in Mexico. I've been a practicing interior designer since I graduated from college. And at that time, I mostly did my own work while my husband at the time and I lived back and forth between Europe and Houston. That's when I lived in the first Briscoe house. After we divorced, I had to start my life all over again, and I needed to rebuild my portfolio. So in the process, I went back to Europe and started bringing in container after container from France and Italy and started a shop. And within that shop, I was able to rebuild a client portfolio and then focused on design while I still kept the shop, which was, raising 3 little boys was a lot to keep up with. About 2016, I decided that I wanted to move more into product design. So about that time is when I really launched my lampshade, my lighting business. I designed privately for Curry & Company lighting, and I have designed lampshades, all sorts of lighting, tabletop, bath accessories. And we sell them all out of our permanent showroom in Atlanta. As an example of one of our little gems, these little shade covers pay the rent.
Now I'm going to take you into the kitchen, but beforehand, I want to show you something really special. Since we were tearing up so many of the walls in the house, we had the opportunity to get the guts in there. So one of the things we did was we added our own Downton Abbey bells. Come on in the kitchen, I'll show you who's not answering. Welcome to my kitchen. And the only person that's answering these bells is me. We thought it'd be fun to bring. I brought these in from England, as well as the stone. The tile came from sourced out of London. But I found these bells, and I love Downton Abbey, and I thought, why not do that? It would just be in character with a house of this scale. So they're charming. We only have 5 of them. We have one in the master bedroom, the guest room, the library, the media room on the 3rd floor. Now, mind you, now we all have cell phones. Of course, we just pick up our phone and call someone, but it's a little character charm. This kitchen, I needed to be elegant because when we entertain informally in that I set up this bar, this island with the food, and let people select as they choose their portions. And I just feel like people feel more comfortable in that manner. So to me, I really wanted this to look more formal. I love my little jewel box. The little cornufet is actually not corn. The smaller one's a cornufet. Love it. Used the cooktop all the time. The special thing about the island, by the way, these are Curry and Company. Of course, everything I have is Curry and Company because I'm either designing it or it's theirs. I love my friends at Curry. Something to note, when we get to the breakfast room, I'll explain. There was a staircase in the breakfast room. These 4 posts were the newel posts of the stairwell. And the interesting thing about this, they're flipped upside down. The interesting thing about this is the Howe family had an old home on Harrisburg, and they salvaged that very Victorian-looking walnut staircase and banister and brought it here to this house. We demolished it because we wanted to create the breakfast room, but what we did was we salvaged all the newel posts to make the 3 corners, and we had to copy the other one to make the 4th corner of the island. Again, repurposing at any time I can. We have 2 dishwashers here. That's all I need. As I said, we use everything that we, when we entertain, we put everything in the dishwasher. I've entertained a lot of people here from 10, 6 to 150, and everything works well. Probably the piece de resistance of this kitchen is this stairwell. So previously, mind you, this house didn't even have a full-size refrigerator in this kitchen, but we had a stairwell that opened from here, and it was a steep pitch down to the basement, which was filled with all sorts of mechanical equipment. My husband has been in the wine business for, 20 years, and he wanted a wine cellar. So we flipped the staircase and then took it gracefully downstairs and built a wine cellar for him. Maybe I should show you the wine cellar before I take you to the breakfast room. So as I said, the wine cellar isn't terribly large, but it's plenty big enough for all the wine we can drink, and I drink a lot. Just to put a little plug in, we're Stewart Cellars, and we have our own wine, plus we carry French, everything else, but this is our brand. And do I have any left that she's not drinking? Here we go. Here we go. Just a plug for the wine business. Please buy Stewart Cellars. This is the breakfast room. This might be one of my favorite rooms in the house by far. We spend a lot of time in here. I use it for breakfast room, informal dining. I use it for a card room, sitting room. Spend many times. In fact, this is typically what happens. Come on, Pops. That's her spot. So as you can imagine, this is outdoor fabric that's on this sofa. We spend a lot of time here. We enjoy the artwork. The artwork that you see, the 4 portraits are from my stepson. The pastel in the center is again something I found in auction, and it just reminds me very much of the Impressionist stage. Paris, San Francisco. This is my huge collection of china and crystal. I did not want to have just another painted cabinetry with lights in it, so I insisted on finding a piece of furniture, again repurposing, that I could house all of my collection. And I love this. It's a bit heavy and Baroque, but the stature of it is just, I love it. Gives a warm and wonderful feeling to the space with all the patina wood. And then I went ahead and I painted inside of the cabinet so that it would showcase the art and crystal better. This light fixture is something I found in south of France, but it's holding my little shades that we make for Curry and Company. This wallpaper, this is the 3rd house I've used it in. It's from Lewis and Wood, again out of England. I loved it so much that when we moved in this house, it was the very first decision I made. And I added the drapery, and it feels very fresh, yet dignified and old. So it's almost like it's a new rendition of a toile, if you will. So it's a combination of a toile and a woodcut, in my opinion. But I love, and the people at Lewis and Wood are wonderful to work with. My favorite painting in the house, it's just colorful and almost pointillism. Just one of my favorites.
This house reflects my aesthetic of design. I like more of an old world, a grand tour kind of influence. I love antiques, I love modern art, but I like for a house to feel like it's got a lot of pedigree. So on all projects I've worked on with clients, and most people that were drawn to me were drawn because of what they saw in my shop. And it was more of a grand tour. There's an English chest, and there's a French bergère, and there's a gilded Italian artifact, or, Spanish Baroque. All those things mixed together, it gives a lot of interest to the room. I'm loving the fact that solution dyed acrylics and performance fabrics have come so far, because I love to have every room available. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a child or an adult. I've watched adults spill red wine glasses, so children probably are better behaved. But I love the fact that every room can be useful, and I intend that the upholsteries and everything should be with comfort. I would love for people to walk into my house and go, just take a deep breath and feel comfortable, feel at home and welcome. And they do. We have many, many parties, dinner parties. We've had a wedding here. We love to entertain, and it shows. And I think people really feel the sense of warmth here.
Now we're in the entryway. This just sets the tone for the house. It's 14 feet wide. We've actually used it for dining in here. We've put in a full-scale dining table and had tables in the breakfast room, the dining room, and in the entry. My favorite piece in this room is this rent table. It is rent table, the alphabet is all around, and people would come in and they'd put their rent in the drawer that corresponded to their last name. Very charming and good feng shui too, because it breaks up. When you've got a door contrasting to another door, you need to have something round that's going to stop the flow of the qi from going out the door. This piece here is actually a sweet piece, favorite of mine. My mother gave this to me, gosh, I was thinking when I first moved in the other Briscoe house. And it's filled with all sorts of artifacts that are part of my life. A book I found in France, the Hummel collection that belonged to my grandmother, of course the old books, some cloisonné vases that used to belong to my mother. I love collections, and I love them contained. So this is a special piece for me. The rug is antique. It is, I believe this is a Kashan. It's something that I bought for my husband, and it's gone through some wear, but the more well-worn, the better for me. To show you something, I said there's something of Dorothy in every room. These beautiful tapestry pillows were part of her collection, and they actually sat in this room on these chairs, not in this fabric. Let me take you upstairs. This graceful stairwell reminds me of a house that I grew up in, and I have to laugh because I used to practice being, after the contestants of Miss America, I'd be in my little lawns of Salzburg flannel nightgown, and I'd pretend it was chiffon as I came down the stairs. So I always think about that when I'm ascending. This statue sat exactly here. It was another thing that I bought from the estate. It was so perfect here that I felt like I, needed to keep it within my family as well. Again, this is a room where I thought I would drape, swag and jabbo the windows, but I just love the austerity of the window as it is. And again, we didn't need it for privacy, so I chose not to drape it.
So in this suite, we have my husband's closet, another suitcase closet, our elevator, which we use daily. And then this goes to our actual bedroom, and then to my suite and the sitting room. Come on, I'll show you the room. It's so nice to have a fireplace in the bedroom. And I think that this room is just the perfect size. It's no bigger than it needs to be. It works so well for us. My husband, if he's not sleeping, he goes that direction into his bathroom. I go this way when I get up in the morning and go work out. So it works for us very well. When we reconfigured this room, the previous headboard was on that wall. We shifted it over here, but that didn't allow me a lot of space for a nightstand. So again, went to my trusty auctions and sought out a piece that was just perfect for this space. This bed is probably my favorite bed I've ever had or ever seen. I love the chinoiserie painting on it. With that in mind, I came in and I wanted to continue to utilize our colors, but I wanted it warm and cozy, and I wanted the little bit of red to pick up the berries in the hand painting. Of course, Poppy sleeps with us, so that's why we had to have a big bed. She takes up a lot of space. This is an example of some of the antique tapestry pillows that I've sold out of my shop, for case in point, that I've sold out of my shop for years. I just love the beauty of the textiles, and I have a large collection. The antiques you see here, again, come from pieces that I found while I was in Europe. What I specifically love in this room, aside from the bed, the rug in itself, it's got some wear to it, but I love the wear that it has. And funny story, my good friend who's been my rug dealer for 30, 40 years, came here one day to see the house, and he walked in this room and he said, "Where did you get that rug?" I said, "Well, I bought it out of an auction out of Cincinnati." He said, "It was from Josephine Abercrombie's estate, right?" And I said, "Yes." Isn't that funny? He had sold it to her many years before. So charming. I love that about it. The pelmets are also antique, and they, of course, set the tone for the color palette of the room. And that's what brought me to what I used with on the bed with the fringe ball fringe and the colors. I'd like to show you my husband's bathroom, which is really charming. Come take a look. I wanted to make this space for my husband feel more cozy. And so that's the reason for the whole barrage of art that you see on the walls, just to make it almost feel like a gallery. And it's interesting, when I told him I was putting this chair in his bathroom, he was like, "What am I ever going to do with that chair?" He sits in it daily. He checks messages, he sends emails, he falls asleep when he's reading. So anyway, it's a very cozy space. Come see my space. So this is the entry into my half of the bedroom, and it's what starts the second bedroom and bathroom that we took in to encompass the entire master suite. So this bathroom was here, it's just that everything that is in its spot was in a different place. It was this size. I don't think we added much more to it, we just did it better. We have a toilet hidden behind a little jib door there, and the special note in this room, these baguette sconces I found, and we added the brass railings to kind of just give a little bit more definition to a big old mirrored wall. And then I found this pretty little chandelier in New Orleans. Other than that, it's got a big, deep jacuzzi tub, which I use often, and I love my bathroom. And now let me take you through my closet to my sitting room. So every morning starts here, a cup of coffee, ends here with a glass of wine, just so you know. Come into the sitting room. This is my other favorite room in the house. I start every morning here, and I end every evening here, usually with my husband in the evening. We watch TV here. This is the only space where we ripped up the old mantle and put in something with a lower profile that would allow us to drop the TV. It's filled with my collection of nudes. I think I took my inspiration from this originally from a Charlotte Moss office that she had. It was a gallery wall of lots of beautiful art. And I love the Pierre Frey. I have more Pierre Frey than is on there, but this is a Pierre Frey wallpaper. And I think it sets off our artwork really well. This specific chair with the Clarence House fabric on it, came out of the estate. I bought it and it sat right here in this old room. So it's funny that it would end up, I didn't plan on it but it just felt that that works out well. And actually my husband loves to sit in that chair in front of the fireplace. The rug, the silk sofa, the Lisa Fine fabric, I like color and I like the vibrancy, and I felt like I needed to have a fairly strong color palette to balance out the art. So that's where that came from. These beautiful toll sconces came out of New York. And this little fixture, I have a pair of. One's in the guest room and this one. And I bought them years ago, and now it's made its home here in the sitting room. Added these window seats as well, and there's good storage underneath, which I won't show you because it's full of books. But the cushions are being made right now for these two pieces. They're also Pierre Frey. I just loved that it helped to bring a little bit more character to the room. So that's why I felt like it was necessary. More intimacy. It's a very intimate room. It's got a lot going on in a very small space, but I like it. It's my private domain. Well, of course, I would tell you that antiques are the backbone of good design. Every room needs some patina of a beautiful mahogany or walnut chest. The other thing, of course, repurposing. It's important to me that we're reusing what's already been created. So I love my antiques. Of course, I love the patina of wood, but we love art, and I've got some wonderful pieces. I love the art. I think that gives such a expression of personality for the homeowners. Soul, color and patterns, art, wood, patinaed wood. To me, the meaning of the word home just exudes comfort, warmth. Hey, Homeworthy, thank you so much for coming to visit us here today at Legend. I so enjoyed showing you our home. Poppy and I are gonna go now, but thanks so much. Bye.
Today on Homeworthy, we're traveling to the Catskill Mountains to visit the iconic artist Hunt Slonem, where we'll explore Belle Terre, his sprawling 30,000 square foot estate with a private lake, rolling hills, and a storied past. Belle Terre once played host to glittering gatherings, including a legendary party hosted by Eleanor Roosevelt for 6,000 guests.
It's just part of the history of the house.
Hunt's work can be found in the permanent collections of more than 250 museums worldwide, including the Guggenheim and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Best known for his vibrant paintings of bunnies, butterflies, and tropical birds, Hunt's creativity is deeply inspired by nature, his beloved pet birds, and the exotic places he has explored throughout his life.
I have a wonderful early work of mine of finches here with a 19th century copy of an earlier Dutch frame, which I'm very pleased with.
But Hunt's artistic vision goes far beyond the canvas. With a deep reverence for history, he has made it his mission to rescue and restore forgotten architectural treasures, transforming them into living works of art. His restoration projects, ranging from grand mansions to historic armories, are his way of preserving the past while reimagining it for the present.
I don't really design, I just do a piece at a time. I found that sofa in Newport, Rhode Island, and I had it upholstered. I've had great upholsterers.
At Belle Terre, Hunt has embraced the estate's Georgian architecture, carefully selecting period-appropriate furnishings and celebrating its original details while breathing new life into every corner.
I just use my eye, and it's like doing a painting for me, decorating, and I was able to use a lot of my early works, which I wanted to keep, and I've put a lot of them here.
For Hunt, these homes are more than just a place to live. They are his life's work, a canvas on a monumental scale. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Hunt Slonem. We're here in South Courtright, New York, at my home, Belle Terre. Come in. Belle Terre, which I've owned for 8 years. It's in South Courtright, New York. It was built in 1907 by Mr. Robert McLean, who was a copper baron, and his family had some property on this site or nearby. And he put a copper roof on the house, solid copper roof, and he built this house for fox hunting. Didn't look like this when I first saw it. We came on a snowstorm and we were lost and there's no reception, and I don't know how we lived to get here, but somehow we finally made it. I thought it has a very impressive first appearance. You know, it's a very, very large house, and it's probably 45,000 square feet altogether. And I love space. I have big spaces elsewhere too, and I'm a big collector of things, and I have housed a lot of my early works here. So my first reaction was there was a lot of space, and that the downstairs was pretty terrific. It has 50 acres, and it's very rural up here. It's very quiet, so it's terrific, and it gave me an opportunity to, you know, acquire things and get things that I hadn't had before. And I've used some of my own fabrics for curtains and upholstery in the other room. And I love plants, and I turned the picnic pavilion into a greenhouse here. We have wonderful corridors full of lush foliage that continues to thrive. This is the parlor on the first floor. I painted the dark blue over whatever was here before. This is a piece of furniture that's English and by a prominent cabinet maker. This is his Parian portrait. I found that in Montreal. I have a wonderful early work of mine of finches here with a 19th century copy of an earlier Dutch frame, which I'm very pleased with. These are some Roman busts that I've amassed, and you can see I'm quite fond of plaster and marble busts. This is called Love Bound, which is a terrific sculpture from the 19th century and a great pedestal that I found to put it on. I think I mentioned already that I have these Gothic perfume scent bottles, rather, that I've collected, and I got part of the collection of Lee Anderson, who had an amazing group of them. Portrait of Lincoln here. Furniture that I've acquired, that has my tortoiseshell fabric on it that I designed. And a harp. I'm a big lover of harps. I have dozens of them here and there. Oh, all the ceilings are intact and wonderful woodwork in here. I was just amazed when I first came here by what is intact and not touched up or anything. This was the original hallway for the entrance to the house, which is no longer the entrance, but I've kept it as a hallway. This is by the portrait of the guy who did the Great Versailles mural at the Met from Kingston, New York. Portrait of my brother back there, a few early works, odds and ends of Paris porcelain and statues. There's some Gothic columns I found along the way, and all the chandeliers I've replaced. I have quite a few masterworks here. These were from David Duncan, the lights over there, and a portrait of a countess between them. This is fabric of mine as well, with the monkey eye pattern, and the other pieces are my rabbit fabric. This is the portrait of Mr. McLean, who built the house. Every mantle in this house is terrific, and they're all original. I don't really design, I just do a piece at a time. I found that sofa in Newport, Rhode Island, and I had it upholstered. I've had great upholsterers. Monty is his name. heirloom upholstery. This is some of the Staffordshire that I've amassed since I've been here. This sofa over here is by Herder Brothers. The only other one I've seen like it was at the Duin show at the Brooklyn Museum. There aren't very many of them. And then I have busts all over the place and early paintings of mine. And I try to keep orchids and things always fresh in here. This is a poof that I found and thought it was very great for this spot. The planter I got at the flea market in New York. This is a wonderful reliquary that I found. I found these feet in Texas. They're Venetian. Karl Lagerfeld owned these paintings earlier on. That's a portrait over there of Consuelo Vanderbilt. I have several favorite rooms. I mean, I like them all. I have a couple of rooms that I don't use very much, but they're full of treasures and wonderful paintings, and they're just full of all the great things I've collected, and they're kind of little magic boxes or something. I'm continually finding new ideas and themes, and I don't ever change a room or a wall, or if things have been taken out, I try to put them back. I just use my eye, and it's like doing a painting for me, decorating, and I was able to use a lot of my early works, which I wanted to keep, and I've put a lot of them here. And furniture from all phases of my life and things that I've bought, even in France. I amass things from all of my travels. We lived in Hawaii when I was a child for, I think, 4 years, and I had birds in the porch, and I observed them, and I grew orchids. Everything you see in my work I've lived with or grown, or nothing is foreign that I paint. I put the rabbits at first in the bottoms of the saint paintings. If the saint had an animal aspect, I would exaggerate and put in a lot more. And my first rabbit, significant use of the rabbit, was in a painting I did that's now at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And out of that, I started doing studies and pinning them on the wall, and then discovering that there were antique portrait frames that fit them. And so I started doing these big groups of paintings on walls. I'm the sign of the rabbit, which isn't why I paint the rabbit, but I found that out later. But it was more to do with religious paintings that I was adding things to. I was an exchange student in Nicaragua in high school, in Managua, and I had my first pet toucan there, and a parrot. We had a parrot that lived with the family called Albarosa, and I collected and studied butterflies. So all of that was what I wanted to paint. I was always interested in what I called the exotic. I went to the Skowhegan School in Painting and Sculpture in Maine, which is where I happened to be born, and met, for the first time in my life, a lot of illustrious New York artists. Alex Katz was visiting, Louise Nevelson, Alice Neal, all kinds of big major artists. So it was the first time I'd really learned that you could survive as an artist, and they all encouraged me to move to New York and not go to graduate school. And I just came here and painted. I had odd jobs for a few years, but I had my first show at 24 in New York, and I was with Marlborough Gallery for 18 years. And I show all over the world. For 24 years, I earned $9,000 a year. And I lived in a loft that was like $250 a month, which I had for 45 years. I lived and worked there. But when I did a big project for the Bryant Park Grill in New York. And after I did that, I got my first studio in a bigger space in the Starrett Lehigh building in New York. And I've had 9 other lofts since that time. So this is the library, and when I first came here, there was a photo of Mr. McLean, who built the house here. That's I don't know how they knew, but they did. This was his daughter in her carriage. That's my father. That's Marquis de Lafayette. And the house I have in Louisiana was given by Thomas Jefferson to him at the time of the Louisiana Purchase. This was from David Duncan. It's a great piece. We've sort of outgrown the book capacity here. We tend to sit upstairs the most, but when I have guests, I sit in here. This is Anne Hathaway in front of my bunny paintings. This photographed my old space. All kinds of wonderful early pieces of furniture in here. So this is the room that I liked. When I first came here, everything else was kind of not together, but this room, I haven't touched any of the paint, and it was in wonderful condition. And we've had very large dinners in here. This is Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. They're hand painted. I got a lot of the break fronts in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've had things shipped from every conceivable place. This is the breakfast room, which again was a train wreck when I came here. I decided to keep the shelves and I just painted the interiors pink. My grandmother on my mother's side was from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and my great-grandfather had a big house in Chattanooga, which I never saw, and it was torn down 6 months before I was born. So I kind of wanted to know about this house, and it put a lust for me for big, sprawling places together. He had 9 children, so must have been big. And space never bothers me. I have a 100,000 square foot armory in Pennsylvania filled to the brim. So I try to keep a lot of anthurium going in this room. We do well at different times with different plants, but the anthurium are wonderful and very colorful. It's another Gothic aquarium. These are great. These are Majolica stools. I have portraits of Eleanor Roosevelt because there was a lot of press about her in this house. She and Mr. McLean's daughter were friends, and later in the daughter's life, she and Eleanor Roosevelt had women's things. People came from all over the world for some gathering that they had, and they were friendly. So it's just part of the history of the house. I mean, I like Eleanor Roosevelt very much. In fact, I was looking at her childhood home at one point, which was in great disrepair, but it was a wonderful house. So it's just some of the information that I was gathered from being here. I collect 19th century and 18th century portraits, not necessarily related to the house. I just love seeing them, and I love gold frames, an ongoing passion of mine. Many of them are from New York State, so there's a correlation in that sense. This is the gym, the big plaster statue of Diana that I found in Connecticut. I had to get rid of my plants at the armory, and we brought a lot of them here, and they're doing quite well. So you can see I have tanks all over the place. And here's some of my diamond dust paintings. And that's the big purple sofa belonged to Warhol. It was in the factory at one point. I had 2 of them, but when I moved, I didn't have room for them, and I fortunately kept that one, and I was able to come here. But I gave the other one to the Tennessee State Museum. So these are just odd paintings of mine that I brought here. I did a lot of saint paintings in the 70s, late 70s, Why, I don't know. I just was mesmerized. I painted St. Martin de Porres a lot. And I went to Peru and I saw Rosa of Lima's tomb and the churches to St. Martin de Porres, and I even brought back a portrait done of him in his lifetime. And I came back and there were, I dabbled in religious painting early on, and that was included in some shows. Then suddenly, I was asked to be in this show called Saints at a gallery downtown, and the Metropolitan Museum bought my painting on St. Martin de Porres' Saints Day. And that was a big moment for me. Getting grants, I got a Green Shield Foundation grant early on, and a National Endowment for the Arts grant. Getting selected for the Bryant Park Grill was a big deal to me because it was the largest scale I'd ever worked on. I only had 1 month to paint it, and it was still wet when we installed it. It was such, I just prayed through the whole thing. And having shows at I loved Marlborough Gallery back in the day, and I always wanted to have the big room. In my last show there was the whole big room. So all of those things are thrilling to me. Recently, I started painting bears and foxes and black panthers. We actually saw a black panther on the road near here. It went by very fast. I've never seen another one. Most people say you don't even know what it was. We do, because it had a long furry tail. A bobcat does not. So we know that it was a black panther, and there are many other sightings that other people have witnessed. So I've combined all those, and I do these night paintings with mushrooms and foxes and wolves and things. I haven't done millions of them, but they're starting to catch. So this is another sitting room off my bedroom. That's one of my favorite things. It's an old Paris bird bath. That's Nefertiti. I found that in Cincinnati. Early portrait painting I did after I went to India of peacocks. Here's a Warhol. Chris Makos of Warhol. And a David LaChapelle. I'm looking around at this house and seeing all the things I've acquired and how fabulous it is. So I'm having a pinch me moment that I'm seeing all the things that I've done and how did I do it, and it's just a miracle to me. So I'm profoundly grateful. This is wallpaper of mine that I do in yellow, obviously. Here's 2 gilded Gothic chairs. This furniture I found in Dallas. It's Art Nouveau. It's not really my thing, but I liked it. And that's Marie Antoinette beside you here. But the main thing is the yellow of the room. These are great window treatments that we just put up with my fabric and pillows. They moved the whole time I was growing up. And my parents were from places that we never lived. So I guess home to me means more like a level of development in the house where I've acquired things that make it seem done to me to some degree. And then there are upgrades always, all along the way. And it takes a while. At first it's just conquering other vibrations. So the thing that was so exciting about here was that we had lupins in the garden, which they're very hard to get growing as a clump, but they were firmly established here. Made the whole thing into a giant garden. I'm putting in tons of hydrangeas and perennials. So as this grows and grows, I feel more, I've watched it evolve under my being there.
Hey, Homeworthy. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Ryan, and welcome to our home in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Come into the castle. Hello, I'm Matthew Trettel.
And I'm Ryan Hanson, and welcome to our home here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Our home is referred to as the Pillsbury Castle. It was built by Alfred Pillsbury in 1903. He was the son of the co-founder of Pillsbury, the milling company, known probably best for the Doughboy. The house remained a family home until 1950 when Alfred passed, and then the home was willed to any living male Pillsbury heir. And for just a handful of years, 3 years, it remained a home, and then for after that, it was a commercial space for almost 50 years. Fortunately, the previous homeowners bought the home in 2000, converted it back into a single-family home.
We had the opportunity to purchase this home in 2023 and make it a home for our future family. Our intention and our plan was we were going to be in this home for 30 years, take it room by room by ourselves over a long span of time while we raise kids in this house and slowly restore it. But the opportunity appeared right about the time we bought this house to partner up with ASID Minnesota, the Association of Interior Designers, and to collaborate together on a show house concept. And so in a remarkable 12-month time span, we were able to tackle this 12,000 square foot house by partnering up with 30 designers, one taking each room in a crazy collaborative adventure that we just wrapped up here in July.
Yeah, and now we have a fully furnished 12,000 square foot home that is ready for us to move into.
Yeah.
When we discovered the house, it's kind of a funny story. I had been eyeing this house for 8 years. It had been on Zillow and had been on the market and had gone unsold for a good part of a decade. Every time I was scrolling, every time it got served up to me, I looked at all 107 images. Every time I was obsessed and in love with this house. Fast forward to us deciding to have a little larger home, not certainly this large for our family, but I asked Ryan if he would consider obscenely large house and if he would consider something that was a period home. So I convinced him to come and take a tour. And we were kind of 3 steps in, and just what the house offers is unlike anything we've ever seen. The level of detail and exquisite woodwork, the formal layout, but then also the informal spaces are also really magical. What we really loved in kind of the process is seeing a house that was beautiful but needed a lot of love, a lot of infrastructure. The house is 120 years old, so it needed updated electrical, it needed updated plumbing, kind of all the mechanical systems needed help. A lot of, fortunately, the main, more formal living spaces were in pretty good shape. It was mostly finishes that needed to be refreshed in kind of the main level of the house.
One of the challenges with this house was when it was originally built, it was built at a time period and for a class of people for whom this was sort of 2 homes, front of house and back of house. There was the family portion of the home, and there was the staff quarters of the home. And while some of that had been picked apart over time, we really set out with our architect to open the house up and make it a full house, to strip away the boundaries between front of house and back of house, and to make it sort of flow and function more as a family home on all 3 floors.
Because we're going to live in the whole house, in the way the Pillsburys only lived really primarily on the main floor and on the 2nd level. And so we imagine utilizing all the spaces, and so we've reclaimed a lot of what would have been kind of ancillary space in the house.
And one of the brilliant things of working with the designers was they really helped us think about how we elevate, particularly the 3rd floor, to bring coherence across all 3 floors. Because one of the things you notice 3 steps in, the 1st floor is immaculate. It's exceptional. It's where you would have entertained guests. The 2nd floor is pretty darn good because we lived there. The 3rd floor was kind of forgotten about, and the basement was utilitarian. So that idea of how we could bring the 1st and 2nd floor elegance sort of up to the 3rd floor and reimagine the space in the basement to be oriented for a family in 2024 was a really cool transformation that got to happen. Really loved that. When you enter our home, we have this wonderfully warm white oak vestibule that has been restored and refinished. A little gilding on the ceiling, some brand new light fixtures, a wonderful little bench to put shoes on, and then our favorite piece, the designer of this space sampled the marbles from the 3 primary fireplaces in the house and reassembled those into this beautifully striped pattern on the floor, and it becomes the perfect welcome into our great hall and grand staircase.
The staircase is kind of the moment when you come into this space, and Ryan and I were 3 steps into the house, and I looked at the staircase and turned to Ryan and said, we have to do this. The staircase itself, like the vestibule, is white oak. We've been told it took over a year to hand carve in place. What's especially interesting about the staircase, and these are little tidbits that we learned from the craftspeople as they were working on the refurbishment of the home as a whole, but the staircase is really special. There may be only one other in the world like it. It is a Fibonacci curve, and so it has a very tight radius, and what's fascinating is it's the same radius that's detailed. This is almost like looking at an overview of the staircase itself. We've been told that the only other one that at least the craftsperson that was working on the home knows of is actually at the Vatican. The level of detail that was put into the house was the thing that spoke to us and really called us into action. The house had been on the market for 8 years, and almost everybody was going to convert it back into commercial use. That was kind of the primary focus of anybody looking at the house. What was important for Ryan and I was to maintain it as a single family home, and one of the things that I envision is our kids teetering down these stairs, certainly for holidays, but every day. And yeah, so the staircase is a really, I think, iconic piece of the home itself. What was interesting, however, was that the staircase itself didn't have a chandelier. And so when we first were looking at the house, we're like, it needs this beautiful waterfall concept, and we worked with Hennepin Made, which is a glass blowing company, and they created a 2-story chandelier that's modern in feel, and I love the juxtaposition of the linear, kind of more modern look with the very linear grid of the 1903 quarter-sawn oak paneling. Other thing that's really amazing in kind of the detail of the home itself is we have these exquisite plaster ceilings, and they're iconic. They tell a story of a very special room that we'll see later in the tour. We were fortunate in the fact that elements like this were in pretty pristine condition, considering they're 120 years old. The woodwork, the oak has weathered well over time. Our bigger challenge have been in some of the things that existed in the home. The wood floors had been replaced at one point. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is give back things to the house that would have been original. And so we, as part of the infrastructure work in the home, we took up the floors so that we could access all of the mechanicals. With the decorative ceilings like we have, it just didn't make sense to try to fish wires and plumbing and HVAC through the decorative plasterwork. It made much more sense to take up the floors. What's amazing about that is we've now been able to create the consistency in the flooring that would have been here when Alfred and Eleanor would have had this as their home.
Speaking of when Alfred and Eleanor lived in the house, if you were a guest, you would have come in the front door and been taken to the reception room while you waited for Alfred or Eleanor to come down the grand staircase and greet you.
This is the funniest thing, I think. As grand as this main level is, this would have been their entertaining level of the home. So they would have mostly spent most of their time upstairs. And I think we just live so differently today. I would spend all of my time in these beautiful spaces. So what was amazing with working with 30 designers is that they brought in inspiration and did things that we would have never thought of. And I love the fact that they really leaned into this juxtaposition of the historic nature of the home, but also with this more modern vibe with furnishings. Vela designed just this beautiful trio of marble tables. One of our requests for the designers, which was led by our architect, was that materials in the home should be evocative of 1903. So you'll see a lot of marble throughout the house, a lot of man-made stone, a lot of handmade pieces. And this was just a really great trio, again, pulling elements from other pieces of the house. From the design perspective, it was kind of an introduction to what you're going to see in other spaces. And I love that, that it just plays beautifully in this space. The thing for me on this house, and this was funny because when we looked at our former house, one of the requirements that I had for our real estate agent was it had to have a killer staircase. And the one thing that this house, it's like the staircase from Titanic. It's like monumental. And so oddly enough, I think it's the staircase that is the coolest part of the house.
I think for me, the coolest part of the adventure, pulling this house together, you know, when the house was built in 1903, it was built using the best craftspersons of the time and the period. And they were doing work that isn't done today and can't be done today because those crafts have changed or become different. And so when we set out on this project, we looked out and said, well, what does it mean to be artisan in 2024? What does it mean to do craft in 2024? And we looked for those artists here locally in Minneapolis who paint glass, who blow glass, who hand make tile. Those craftspersons and being able to incorporate them throughout the house. So we have a 1903 craftsmanship up against 2024 craftsmanship. I mean, I really loved how that came together and that ability to sort of showcase artists in the designs throughout the space.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Peacock Lounge. This is our transformation of the reception hall, or the reception room. Again, beautiful plastered ceilings. Again, the floor we got to redo. We did this great little detail by adding 2 bands of walnut in around the perimeter, just giving it a little bit of an elevated detail. The woodwork is original, and then we found this awesome wallpaper that sort of just is evocative of the peacock feeling we wanted to have in the space. And then those blues and those grays just radiate. And it's a great little sitting room.
What I love is Rob also pulled in draperies, which would have been very common. In 1903, they would have used this actually to control heat within spaces, so it was pretty common in all doorways, particularly larger spaces, to be able to close them off. But what's great is it becomes all of a sudden an intimate space if you want to do something that's a little bit more private and have kind of a little more of a lounge experience with your guests, which I love. The other thing that's really great in this space is the bar. We didn't want to interrupt any of the beautiful molding that wraps the room itself. And so the bar is actually floating in the space. And it has a beautiful reeded front, which is also a quarter sawn oak to match the wall paneling. Tragically, a home that was another Pillsbury Mansion. It was built on Lake Minnetonka in just outside of Minneapolis, was torn down right prior to COVID. It was built by the Pillsburys that originally lived across the street from Alfred and Eleanor. They had their summer home on the lake. It was, I think, a 30 or 40,000 square foot mansion, so like 3 or 4 times the size of this. But the peacock inspiration that's in the windows was actually a concept that we wanted to incorporate, and it takes from the motif that was used at Southways. Samuel Yellen, a famous metal worker, had crafted these amazing peacock doors. And since the wallpaper already had that peacock inspiration, we wanted to have a kind of a hallmark to the Southways Pillsbury Mansion and a nod to the other parts of the Pillsbury family in our home.
We love entertaining, and this is just a remarkably designed bar. Has everything you'd want to have if you were hosting a party, and we like to host parties. So beautiful reeded bar that was built with the marble on top, and when you come around behind, you can just see it's a fully floating bar, built-in fridge, built-in ice, built-in trash, built-in glass washer, built-in dishwasher, 2 of them, so you can keep going. We put everything we could think of into this bar design. And then added some nice floating shelves on both sides, a little bit of brass, a little bit of glass, and some hand-painted mirror. Again, just to reflect and sort of bounce the light around the space a little bit more.
What I love about the space is it feels like a lounge, like in a boutique hotel. So it's just kind of this intimate gathering space. And we've already actually entertained guests here. So we've been really trying to enjoy utilizing this space as kind of the welcome to our home. Our style is definitely more dark and moody. I would say we lean towards things that are more masculine. In our house, I feel like we've done what I would call a European sensibility, where we've blended the past, but also understood that we also need to transform things to be more modern. A lot of the mansions that we looked at when we were looking at homes in general, a lot of them are dark. And that was one of the things that I think we really appreciated about this home. From what we've heard and what we've read about Alfred, he was very instrumental in the design of this home. Ernest Kennedy was our architect that had built the home, and he had built many of the Pillsbury mansions as well as the notable elite of Minneapolis at the turn of the century. His homes don't feel like this. This house feels very different, and I think it's because Alfred had his hand in the design of this home. One of the big things that makes a huge difference in the space is the use of windows. There's so many windows in this house, and so natural lighting is something that we were drawn to when we walked through the house for the first time, because it is, as much as there is a lot of woodwork in the house, it does feel open and airy, and has a really open floor plan for 1903. At that time, they would have been coming out of the Victorian area, where there would have been a lot of smaller rooms, interconnected, but we have larger, more grand spaces that all kind of open onto each other, kind of like how we live now. And I think that was one of our appreciations of the house and what really drew us to the space.
We're cutting off the cocktail now and welcoming you to the Grand Salon. This is our formal dining room or informal living room combination of space. It's the original great room of the house, and we have taken it into this concept that has a beautiful dining room table running right down the middle of it.
One of the things that we asked for the designer is to figure out how to do configuration of the soft seating and the dining room table. The previous homeowner had the dining room table off-centered in the room and kind of what I would say a bowling alley leading to the fireplace. And we really felt when guests come into our front door, we wanted them to see the hospitality of a grand table, because we imagine that we will spend a lot of meals here entertaining our guests. So the table is kind of a centerpiece of this room. And then what I love is the designer has been a little more playful in color. And we have these beautiful sofas that flank the one side of the room. The woodwork really is the star of this space, and I feel like the elements that have been added into the room really have the mahogany really stands out from that. It was amazing to have craftspeople come in and do a full restoration on this full room. They took the smallest little tools, metal scrapers basically, and basically put back all of the shadow lines into the profiles of the moldings. And it was amazing to see the difference between the before and after, how much those lines really define the beauty of the wood. Honduran mahogany is very rare, and unfortunately over time, sometime during the commercial use of this home, two of the walls were stripped of their original paneling, and so we just have the one feature wall with the windows now that have the original paneling. But the hand-carved motifs were one of the things that really spoke to us as well, just that detail of what the craftspeople created in 1903 for Alfred and Eleanor. Originally, the fireplace, the hearth was actually much larger when we purchased the home. It came out almost as far as the columns. We have seen drawings from publication from the turn of the century that detailed the architecture of the home, and this has been modified over time. There was originally an ingle nook, so benches that wrapped the fireplace. So I imagine the Pillsburys would have come and sat and warmed themselves by the fire. Those were removed, we believe, potentially by the previous homeowner. Prior to that, bookcases flanked the fireplace as well, and those were removed even before that. We've been fortunate enough with the public tour that a lot of people came through that had either worked in the house or had rented pieces of the house over time, and were able to share pictures. So we're starting a document of kind of the living history of the house, which has been fascinating. But we decided, since the ingle nook was no longer here and the fireplace hearth seemed oversized for the room, we utilized the original stone but just made it a little smaller, and then thought about how the finishes could really be enhanced in the space.
We ended up putting a herringbone floor in. We don't know that was originally in this space. It was true of the time period. It was true of Ernest Kennedy, the architect of the home. So we took the liberty of the opportunity, since we were replacing the floors, to adding that sort of elevated level in here and in the music room. And it's just a really remarkable detail. Again, sort of pulls you right on into the room and towards the fireplace, which is great. Lighting really became became our opportunity to sort of transition and sort of do that juxtaposition between what was respectful of the wood and the materials, and yet the transitionary kind of piece to a more modern or contemporary way that we wanted to live. You know, we did not want this to feel like a museum. We wanted it to feel inviting like a home, and light fixtures really sort of gave us that opportunity. So a lot of brass, a lot of glass, a lot of contemporary forms.
Well, and I think one of the things that was the opportunity is we knew that the original light fixtures in the home had been removed and had been sold. They were valuable sometime probably in the 70s or 80s. They were sold off. So we weren't tied to keeping something for its historic nature because it wasn't, at this point, what was replaced was not of the house. And so it really did give designers a great opportunity to lean into things that were more artistic.
We love also the way the designers were able to integrate sort of sustainable materials. So this fabric is actually recycled plastic bottles, which is super, super cool. And we went ahead with a natural cork for the wall finishing in this space. Again, the designer really wanted the wood to pop, and this use of this eucalyptus cork with a little bit of gold fleck and a little bit of gloss, I think really allows that to happen because it feels rich, but it's subdued or subtle enough sort of in the background. And it's so cool to just know that that's cork. And then we took the opportunity with the fireplace to jazz that up with a woven fabric wall covering that is on the fireplace and is also on the reverse of the archways. We added in a mirrored tile for the far end of the room. It is a very simple 1, 2, 3 tile pattern. We just did it in an offset way so that it doesn't look like vertical stripes, and it adds a little bit of sexy charm to this great room. But it lets us reflect those columns, and so if you're standing here on the front of the room and taking a look at the fireplace, you will see that the wallpaper appears to continue off to both sides into the reflection because it was also done on the reverse sides of the columns. Which is really, really fun. And then it pops itself up onto the ceiling as well. There's a lot of sort of fifth wall finishes in this house. That was an exciting opportunity to sort of showcase materials used in that way. My other favorite detail is these chairs and the dining room table, which are from a company called Pegato. It's a Guatemalan family of designers, and these are bound strips of birch that are then laminated together and formed into the shape. It looks a little crazy. It is remarkably comfortable. And the table, again, is sort of this very, very sexy form that just pulls you right into the room underneath the glass. Beautiful sort of piece we got to use in the centerpiece of our great hall.
So what we loved was the fact that these cabinets just have a collection of our things that we've collected over time, whether it be on travels or just things that maybe have been from a family member, just things that really spoke to us. And it was great that the designers really leaned into our personal effects as they created the design home for us. The other thing that's really interesting about this room is in the 70s, the house was occupied by an architecture firm. And they had enclosed the open air porch and were using it for storage for their blueprints. Turns out blueprints at the time were very flammable, and the house had a fire. And so there are 3 beams in this room that were replaced. They're actually not mahogany anymore. And there was originally 3 windows along this wall. One of the windows was significantly damaged in the fire, and the previous homeowners, when they moved the kitchen, ended up removing windows so that they would have a functional wall in the kitchen for cabinetry. And so this room has changed over time. Originally it was a mirror image. There would have been 3 windows on one side facing the front of the house, and then 3 windows on the back of the house that would have looked out into the open air terrace. So what's great is we can transition from the grand salon directly into the kitchen. And this used to be the open air porch. The previous homeowners moved the kitchen, the original kitchen from the back of the house, and enclosed this porch so that the kitchen was more adjacent to the main living space, which is how we live now. Obviously in 1903, the Pillsburys wouldn't have spent time in their own kitchen. They would have had staff that would have prepared their meals. Well, now the kitchen is bathed in light, which is amazing. They filled basically the recesses in the stone with glass and created a room in something that would have just been an open air space before. What we love about the kitchen is that it now feels like it's part of the house. The original kitchen, which was done in early 2000s, really didn't feel like the home itself. And what the designers did with this space is create something that is actually 2 kitchens. Originally it was one huge open space, and they've created a more formal gallery kitchen, and then also a secondary scullery area.
We have this remarkable island. Again, we love entertaining and to host. You know, we've already had 23 people around this island, so it is substantial. But these gorgeous marble countertops. And then a 5-foot sink, which we were told is like the size of a bathtub. Obviously not the width way, but like the length way. Like this is the length of a bathtub. So we have a 5-foot sink and a 5-foot cooktop, which seems absolutely killer to me, or crazy, and very intimidating on some levels. But I believe the kitchen has 5 ovens, and there's 23 appliances in this space that were designed in, which is so cool.
Well, and what I appreciate too is the fact that the appliances are all very modern in aesthetic. They're all Gaggenau, and normally that brand you typically will see in much more modern new builds. But I love how it integrates into kind of this classic feel, because they just kind of seamlessly blend. The other feature that I love in this room is the mirror wall. That space, eventually, we hope to break through this wall and enclose the porte-cochere. Originally, since this would have been the back terrace of the home, the Pillsburys would have had their carriage, and then eventually Alfred was one of the first 3 automobile owners in Minneapolis. They would have been dropped off here in the porte-cochere. They would have come up a set of stairs onto this terrace and then go through what would have been the back door of the home, or the family entrance of the home. So we're hoping in the future that we can enclose the porte-cochere and make that a breakfast room off the kitchen, which would be an amazing kind of informal space. But for now, the mirror is amazing. It just really transforms and doubles the space, and is so reflective and bounces the light.
Like I said, there's like 23 appliances hiding in this kitchen and scullery, and as Matthew mentioned, they're beautifully built in. So from a coffee maker and a speed oven to a warming drawer and a vacuum sealer. But the best little trick, I think, is this built-in tray for your coffee. So you're ready to go, and it has its own spot right there.
The next space is our scullery, which is literally another full kitchen. So we have this amazing oven, a refrigerator, cooktop, hidden ice maker, kind of everything you would need for catering or entertaining. So when we're entertaining guests and we're actually not the ones cooking, this is a really great space for caterers to function and still giving us use of the full kitchen. But one of my favorite parts is the kind of butler's pantry side of the kitchen, with these amazing cabinets that have this gorgeous kind of almost terracotta interior. Great for storing kind of all of our party essentials and doing it in style. So we have a range of just kind of entertaining elements in here, like our collection of place card holders. Everybody needs those. But some of my favorite things are William and Morris pattern china, which is really fun. So we're really excited to entertain in the Grand Salon. But probably our most cherished piece that's housed in the cabinetry is a 1929 trophy that Alfred Pillsbury presented for the Woodhill Horse Show. Our designer that did the kitchen and scullery, Kate, actually found this in an antique store. And so this is one of our prized possessions, something that actually Alfred had presented in 1923.
And the other piece that Kate found that no kitchen should be without: a Pillsbury Doughboy. One more remarkable detail. Again, this was an all stone, limestone, open air porch originally. And so when they went to put in the cabinets, they had to scribe the detail. And it was crazy watching them do this and figure out how to get the woodwork to line up, how to get the ceiling to line up, and how to get the stone to line up.
Let's head on to the music room. Follow us. And here we are in the music room. This was originally Alfred and Eleanor's formal dining room, but when the kitchen moved from the back of the home to its new location in the open air porch, this no longer made sense as the dining room since the kitchen was basically across the house. And so we have turned this into more of our formal living space, and we call it our music room because it features our baby grand piano. When we purchased the house, we loved the woodwork. Again, this is all mahogany in here. It was in really poor condition. The finish had basically alligatored. It was a shellac, and over time, with the exposure to the sunlight, with all the natural light that does come into this space, it had all crackled. What's amazing about shellac is the fact that they can spray it with denatured alcohol, and they sprayed it like 100 times, and it slowly smoothed out the finish, and then they were able to add additional shellac on top of it, and now it looks as if it's a finish of a fancy piano.
We found an original photo of this space. It's one of sort of 6. Again, because the Pillsburys did not have children, there wasn't necessarily a good lineage of photographs. We're hoping, and over time, trying to find more pictures of what the house did look like. But we had one photo of this space when it was the dining room, and it did have a landscape mural on it. And so we worked with the designer to bring that back, but to bring it back in a more contemporary fashion. A lot of people think this is painted. It isn't. It's wall covering again, and as well, the ceilings were featured with wall papers, which was a lot of fun to watch the guy put up while he was walking around on stilts. But again, just the finish of the 5th wall sort of elevates the entire room to a little more grand level and a little more contemporarily grand level, which is a lot of fun.
The other thing, we kind of made a strategic choice in the home. There were 5 fireplaces that existed in the home. The chimneys were really compromised, and so we have decided that it was more appropriate to put in a gas fireplace insert in the home. We couldn't imagine actually trying to burn wood in this house. I would be scared that we would burn the house down. So that was one change that we made that did modernize the house, but gave us the opportunity to really utilize the fireplaces in a way we couldn't if we didn't do the insert. The other really fun part of this room, I think, is the furnishings. Again, they lean towards a little bit more modern, contemporary lines, and I think it really helps the detail of the room stand out. And it's just a relaxing and very cozy space. I think what I appreciate about what the designers did in all of the spaces is the fact that we can come into any of these rooms, even though they're grand, they feel really welcoming, and I would not have any qualms about coming in here and just opening up and reading a book. And there's so many spaces throughout the house that are like that.
Now's our chance to go down a grand staircase, and it's a little crazy. When we first came into the house, we were curious, why would there be a grand staircase to the basement? Well, when you have a 17th century Tudor library that you're trying to show off, it makes a little bit of sense to have a grand stair. Alfred imported this room and reconstructed it in the basement of the house, building the rest of the house around it. And it is a remarkable piece of history that we get to live with every day. So this is all hand-carved, 1600s, English. We don't know where in England it is from, but it is English. An English room, from what we have been told. The whole room had been imported, floors, walls, ceiling, fireplace. When we moved into the house, the floors had actually rotted away, so we were not able to reclaim them. We had to replace them with a new wood floor that would stay up in the basement, but the rest of the room was restored and brought back to life. These panels are all hand carved, and it's really cool. They change size actually as they go up. They get smaller, which is a trick of forced perspective to make the room feel even taller than it is. We have 11-foot ceilings in this room, and it's because that this room was sort of built in the basement. And up above us is a remarkable plaster ceiling. This is the original ceiling upon which the ceilings on the first floor are based and recreated from. But you can just see all of the detail, both in the plaster ceiling and in the hand-carved wood around the perimeter of the room. It is really a remarkable landmark, and it's so awesome that we were able to A, that it was in good enough condition, but B, that we were able to bring it back to life. About 20 panels had to be replaced, and some of the plaster needed to be repaired. But we're so excited to sort of have this room in the house. Even though we've got a set of original windows, we're below ground. This is actually built in the basement and the rest of the house is built around it. And so you can see that because the windows still work as we open it up. Come right on through. But the limestone foundation of the house is right there, probably about 2.5 feet away from the outside. The designer we worked with for this space reconceptualized the room as a billiards room. So we got our great billiards table and very contemporary light fixtures, but the wood still sings, and that's the signature element of this place, or of this room. Alfred used this room to show off his art collection. And so we assume that maybe he would be entertaining guests, they'd be having dinner, they would come downstairs, and he would have some of his artwork on display. But having 900 pieces of art, he needed some place to keep them. So he had a vault. We built sort of a custom bar to insert into the walls and then set out this furniture. We imagine this being a place that you're gonna come for an after dinner drink. We want the ability to sort of flip it out and host a dinner down here. It's just a really cool secret little room off the billiards room. When we moved in, not much remained of what probably was originally the structure. Just really these two pieces of marble and the flooring. So we were able to sort of refinish the flooring. We recreated the marble to keep that detail going on here, and then brought in new marble to sort of finish off the floor and sort of keep the space. The designer came in and added the barrel curved ceiling in, and then needed sort of a long linear light fixture, and so just fell in love with this faceted, almost necklace-like alignment of 3 different light strands for the ceiling. So we have a fully custom leather sofa and pillows, custom fabricated chair, custom marble little table, and this fun little cheetah ottoman to just, add a little bit of surprise and delight into the room. And then we did a detail on the carpet to sort of give it a non-traditional shape. And just, again, adds a little bit of sexy fun to this room. And it's just a sexy, fun room. It's remarkable, again, to be in a house and sort of have 11-foot ceilings in the basement. And again, a little bit of nice natural light that's coming on in. But we were able to sort of reclaim this unused space to be an extension of a lounge and a home theater. Favorite details by far, this is true leather wallpaper, and the zippers are real. They could work if they weren't glued down. But the walls and the ceiling are both leather panels. That gives the room a little bit of nice acoustical property, and also just a really great sort of finishing detail. And then the designer created this timbre wall that we're really proud of and excited by, that sort of sits over here and allows this to be a nice lounge space when you want it to be a lounge space, or when it's time for a movie, you just slide it open. We didn't want a theater that was just a theater and that was sort of dominated or overwhelmed by the screen all the time or by 2 sort of giant chairs. So we love the fact that this is sort of a lounge space in which it's comfortable to gather, or a great place to watch a movie or a game.
So we met through kind of our business industry. Both Ryan and I work in events. We belong to an association of event professionals, and Ryan called me up one day and said, "Hey, I see you're a new member of the association. I happen to be doing an event at the convention center. I see you're having an event the same weekend. I have a bunch of calla lilies that are being used for a lunch, and we're gonna throw them away after. Would you have any use for them?" And I was like, "Of course." And that was kind of our first connection.
That turned into dinner, and then 17 years of crazy adventures together. So that's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun. This being the biggest,
Yes.
for sure.
What's cool, however, about that story is when we take a tour of the home, there is a mural that was created and commissioned for the home, and to tell kind of our story kind of in 3 parts: our past, our present, and our future. Yeah. And the artist chose to incorporate calla lilies also into that mural, which is really cool. So it's been interesting as an adventure. This project happened in 12 months. Construction happened in only 9 months. We did a full transformation of all the space. As I think challenging of all the moving pieces, like quick timeline, lots of individuals involved. What Ryan and I discovered is this project actually pulled us closer together.
That's true.
Where it could easily have pushed us apart.
Yeah, no, it really did.
Because there's so many dynamics that happen with something of this scale.
Were there moments where we're ripping our hair out? For sure. Were there things we didn't understand? Yes. It's crazy. Like we're in the event industry, so we are used to quick timelines and we are used to designing space. So we're design adjacent, which probably made us very good clients. It probably also made us really terrible clients because we knew just enough to be dangerous in what we were doing.
But we're used to working in an industry where a timeline is finite. Whereas interior design and construction is a little more fluid than that. And so that was an interesting kind of learning curve. So let me take you on to the second level where the Pillsburys would have spent all of their kind of daily living, but it's now our bedroom quarters. Come on up with me. So as we come up to the second floor landing, we have this amazing mural, and I referenced this earlier about the fact that we have kind of our history, both past, present, and future. And so the story of the calla lily is depicted here, which I love, and this is actually hand painted by a local set of artisans called By Shishi, and they did the entire concept for this mural, kind of a Matisse inspired, or one of the other inspirations that we had given to them was I love how the juxtaposition of the Paris Opera House and the Chagall ceiling. This is kind of an interpretation of that without the bright colors that are in that. But there are depictions of children in our future, which is also really fun, a nod to we love theater and Disney, so there are some Disney-esque elements that lead into the kids' room as well. But again, you can see also that beautiful two-story chandelier really is the centerpiece of this beautiful space at the top of the stairs. So welcome into our primary suite. This would have originally been a set of rooms that Mrs. Pillsbury would have used as her sitting room. So this originally wasn't a bedroom, and we've converted it into our primary bedroom. What I love about the space is the fact that it's kind of two rooms in one. And what's really great about the new design of the space is the fact that Chris, the designer of this space, actually created two chandeliers that really orient the bed space and then kind of the soft seating living space of this room. We've added in these beautiful kind of coved recesses for those chandeliers. Originally, the room had one center chandelier, but with the fact that we really kind of wanted to create two spaces, this made a lot more sense. What I really love about this particular room is the fireplace. The tile is original, and there are green accents kind of throughout the entire primary suite based on the tile from this fireplace. This was originally a coal-burning fireplace, and eventually we would like to have a custom insert made so that we could actually use it. Obviously, we're not going to be burning coal in the home, but it is a really great feature of this room. The other thing that we really enjoy in the bedroom space is the fact that it has windows that overlook downtown Minneapolis, and so the skyscrapers of the city skyline are just out our windows. Eventually, if we can get permission through the Historic Preservation Commission, we'd like to actually turn these windows into doors. There is a terrace outside of the bedroom that is the roof of the kitchen space that would make a beautiful additional living space, and having doors from the bedroom into kind of that outdoor patio space would be amazing. Ryan and I argued a little bit about whether or not we would have a television in the bedroom, and so this was a really creative piece. This is actually a retired Ethan Allen element. It was a freestanding television cabinet, so TV actually raises up out of this. It has a lift system, and so Ryan was able to get the television in the bedroom and I don't have to look at it. What was creative with our contractors is they actually recessed it into the wall so it looks like a built-in. Throughout the renovation of the home is we've really tried to find ways to connect both the past with the present, but in a way that is really seamless so you really can't tell what is old and what is new. And I think the woodwork in the house is one of those best examples. One of the things that we did was we remilled the original woodwork so that any of the new elements that we were adding to the house were identical to the original. There had been a lot of renovation and restoration over the course of time in the house, and so one of the things that we discovered is a lot of the wood profiles within the woodwork and the baseboards specifically were not original, and we wanted to be as true to the original intent as possible. I think one of the best examples of that is our primary bathroom. When we purchased the house, what is now the primary bathroom was a closet, and what is now the closet was the primary bathroom. We felt that the closet was oversized and the bathroom was undersized, so we did a flip-flop. The other really important thing for me personally was to start creating some really great lines of sight through the home. And we had this beautiful 3-window kind of bay concept that was obscured by a third of the closet. And so by rearranging the entrance into this space, we were able to line the door up with the window and created basically a gallery. So you kind of walk through a series of rooms, ending with this beautiful soaking tub. And then one of my favorite features, we have a coffee machine here built in, and as a trade-off, I get the coffee, but Ryan gets the ice cream. So we have a freezer here as well. So the primary suite is definitely decked out with everything that you would need, whether you're getting up in the morning for a fresh cup of coffee, or if you want to tuck into bed with a gallon of Ben & Jerry's. So the other really amazing feature is this huge, I call it the car wash size shower that is fully lined with marble. It has a rain head, it's got double head showers, it's also a steam shower and has a body spray system. It's like having your own spa oasis in the primary suite. Double vanities was another important piece for this, and cleverly the contractor built in our medicine cabinets into a framed concept. And what I love about the medicine cabinets is there's actually electrical built in, so you can have kind of your razor, your electric toothbrush, all of that can be hidden off of the counter space. Another really fun product that we discovered is what's called a 22 system outlet, which is basically just the outlet itself, so that it doesn't require a cover plate, and it's actually kind of built into the materials, just a really kind of seamless look, and really kind of lets the stone of the room stand out. As I think we mentioned earlier, one of the requirements that we had for the designers were for them to use things that would have been of the period of 1903. So that's why you see the natural marble kind of throughout this space. And even though this is a brand new bathroom, it does feel like it's always been here. The other really special space in the suite is our killer closet. And so we have a fully built-in wardrobe system with internal lighting. We love the fact that with the seated glass, you can still see into kind of our collection of clothing, but it has this really great look. Definitely a more masculine space. I think that's one of the things that we really ask designers to lean into is we do like these darker, richer colors. And one of the signature pieces in the closet is this steam closet. Which is a new thing, which we're super excited to give that a try as well. So just a really special space. One of the other details that was really fun working with craftsmen and craftspeople is our wallpaper installer had a recommendation for the designer to basically do a gift wrap concept on the ceiling in this room. So you can see that the wallpaper actually comes to a point in the center of the room, and then they've done a band of the wallpaper kind of crisscrossing from corner to corner, which is really fun. Really kind of draws your eye to the chandelier, which is a really great feature in this space. You'll notice also, again, the repetition of the green. So this green comes from the tile, and it's just a green glass door on the upper parts of the cabinet. In the primary bathroom, the walls are actually painted a green. So there's just kind of a nod to that green throughout the spaces. So we're really fortunate in having really a luxurious suite. It almost feels like we're at a luxury hotel. A space that we'll definitely want to retire to for the evenings. So next on our tour is the kids' bedroom, and we're really excited about that because it's part of our journey of our next part of our life. So let's take a look. So this is the most special room in the house, and this is the one that made me cry when the designer Lucy Penfield showed us her renderings. What we had asked for is a space that felt like the nursery in Mary Poppins or Peter Pan, and what she delivered is just that. Like, this is such a playful space. It's filled with fabrics and patterns, and there's some kind of fun pieces within the room that are special to us because they were in the home when we purchased it. So the beds were reclaimed. The previous homeowners had an auction and sold off a lot of their furnishings. And we saw these twin beds and felt that they would be a perfect addition to the space. Same with this armoire. And what Lucy ended up doing is painting them in a kind of a slate blue finish, which is just beautiful. So kind of modernizing the feel of the classic pieces, but having something that was in the home was really fun. The other really great addition to this space is what we call story time. And it's basically a series of banquettes filling the bay window. We decided to give our future children kind of the best room in the house. This one has the best lighting. This would have been originally Alfred's sitting room, so it's a really important space. Knowing that we would have kids, but the room had a fireplace, one of our concerns was who did we need to protect more, the fireplace or the kids? And so Ryan works with Children's Theater Company, and their scenic department actually built us this stage that basically covers the fireplace until the kids are old enough to probably move to rooms upstairs when they would have separate rooms. But in the meantime, they have a theater stage, so their imagination can run wild. So one of my favorite pieces of the house, because again, it's that leading into the artistry of local artists and something that is personal to us. The suite also has a cute little powder room as well, and we can take you in there. Again, a lot of our requests were to create spaces that felt like they were original, and so this is a beautifully tiled room. We mimicked the original marble surrounds on the windows. This was indicative of actually all of the bathrooms in the house, and so we wanted to keep that at least in one of the spaces. And so even though this is a brand new space, it really feels like it's always there. And I think that was the important thing. As we transitioned spaces within the house, we did really want to honor kind of the legacy of what was here before and really lean into the pieces that would feel appropriate for the house. That was really important to us. One of the elements that I love from an art perspective in the house is there's just so many different kind of types of art. And when Lucy was shopping, she found these vintage Babar prints that I believe are from 1940s, which is really great. And they just work really beautifully in the room. And again, kind of tie into kind of that European sense and kind of blending some of that. We know that was important for Alfred to bring in those European influences. And I love that we're doing that in this, what I would call a very English nanny style bedroom.
Welcome to what is my office. Matt's not going to tell you this, but really I'm the big kid in the relationship. So this is sort of the place in which we get to monkey around and do our business while we're there. Thus the theme. Beautiful denim wallpaper that is hand stitched with snow monkeys hiding in the pattern. and that was finished off with sort of this great little monkey light fixture. We have the little monkeys crawling around and deconstructing the chandelier. Those two elements sort of really came together to give us a little bit of theme for this office, which I love because it's whimsical and fun, and yet it's still refined in a nice little way, which has really been pleasurable and fun to create. Ended up building in sort of these walnut cabinets and leveraging that orange color that comes out of the wallpaper. Again, that saturated color is great, and yet it's not as overwhelming as I think most people would think. You know, most people would think you're gonna do a big bold color, it's gonna sort of drive you bonkers, but in this room, it's nothing but color. The saturated anchors away blue that's in the doorknobs and the trim. Like I said, the orange, the blue and the brass and the walnut really come together, I think, in a great way. And then we have that little bit of gold gilding reflected in the ceiling. That is a wall covering. It actually has real gold foil in it. I just love how it sort of like pulls everything together in this room.
I think collectively home means family. Part of the reason we purchased this home was to start our family. We've waited a long time to do that, and so we're excited to create adventures. The house is full of stories. The house is full of playful opportunities. The house has been designed for children. There's an amazing bedroom suite for our future kids. There's playrooms, there's secret passages. It's just, I think,
There's a lot of whimsy.
home encapsulates that whimsy that we'll have as a family. Thanks, Homeworthy, for coming and joining us today on our tour of our home.
But I smell cookies in the oven, so we gotta go. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.